Zach Addison, a little of our best. A little of our best. Zach Addison.
Thank you, Contest Toastmaster. Imagine that when someone in despair is teetering on the brink between choosing life over death, sometimes one kind act, one connection, one person giving a little of their best could make all the difference to them. Many years ago, an elderly man told me about a couple of total strangers who made the difference in him choosing to go on living when he was in his 30s. Paul had 3 little munchkins, Elsie, Lizzie, and Kathy, who were the joys of his life. He worked 3rd shift at a chemical plant to provide for them, and on Sundays, he took them to church and left them there while he went home to launder their school clothes for the week. While ironing little pleated skirts could drive many a father to the brink of despair, what Paul fumed over that week was his wife's many infidelities. He had come home from work 3 mornings earlier, tired and stinking of weed killer, to find that she had run off with another man again, this time with a preacher, to experience climax. Climax, Georgia, a village just north of Tallahassee, Florida. Only that time she'd taken all their money, leaving him with 3 hungry little girls and no way to buy groceries. So as he ironed those little poodle skirts and jumpers that Sunday, he plotted how to end her philandering for good. He plotted how to end everything. An hour or 2 later, as Paul walked his daughters home from church, he grasped little 5-year-old Kathy's hand so tight, with his thoughts still blazing through his brain. Suddenly, a shiny new 1958 Rambler pulled up beside them and stopped. "Excuse me, sir. My name's Eula Payne. This is my husband, Walter. Will you and your girls like a ride home?" "No, thank you, ma'am," Paul muttered without making eye contact. But Elsie and Lizzie thought a ride was a great idea as they scrambled into the back seat of that car. Paul climbed in behind them and set a little Kathy on his lap. He gave Walter their address, and off they rode. Eula turned and smiled at little Kathy. "You're such a beautiful girl. Where's your mama?" Kathy blurted out, "She ran off with a preacher." When the car reached their house, Paul helped the girls out and thanked the Paynes for the ride. But Eula sprang from the car, asking him the girls' questions as she talked her way up their front steps and into their little house as Walter followed behind. Inside, Eula offered to make Paul a cup of coffee, but as she whisked her way through their kitchen cupboards looking for the coffee tin, she discovered that the cupboards were bare. "Well, I guess you'll just have to come to our house for a cup of coffee sometime." When Paul finally shoveled these strangers out of his house, he was so glad to be relieved of them. But an hour later, they reappeared, this time with their arms full of groceries. Over the months that followed, the Paynes continued to love on Paul and his daughters. He still teetered sometimes. As he filed for divorce, his wife got custody of the munchkins, and he lived in his old pickup truck in the parking lot of that chemical plant while struggling to pay child support. As Paul lost everything, the Paynes invited him to their house a few times each week for a hot breakfast, a hot shower, and a nap on their sofa. 1 month after Paul's divorce was finalized, the Paynes let a young school teacher who was struggling to find her first job move into a little travel trailer in their backyard. As Paul woke up from a nap one morning, he met that teacher named Era for the first time. over the weeks that followed, as Paul and Era became acquainted, he declared that he hated all women. And she declared she was looking for a career, not a man. But as fate would have it, new love was born in the backseat of that Rambler as the Paynes drove them back and forth to church each week. It is because of the kindness of a couple of total strangers that I stand before you all here today. When the Paynes took the time that Sunday to stop and help a hopeless man by listening and buying him food to feed his children, that was my daddy, Paul, who they walked back from the brink of committing murder and suicide. Because they gave Paul a little of their best, he came to see that the climax crisis didn't have to define his possibilities in life. He lived to meet that teacher, Era, who became his second wife, and later my mama. We don't always know who around us may be teetering on the brink of some crisis of their own in silence. But like the Paynes, each of us here today can make a difference in the life of someone around us if we make the time to slow down, to listen, to connect. Because people feel seen. They feel loved. They feel worthy when we give them a little of our best.